Bienvenidos, Fright fans! Welcome to the horror show. I'm Jaime and Fuego, and if it please you, I ask you to stick with me here today for another episode of Hail to Stephen King, a special episode in the regard that it is going to be my first unboxing here on Hail to Stephen King, which I do most Sundays. There's been, little, change here or there if I had like a Dark Tower bit of coverage going, because I have been rereading the entire Stephen King magnum opus series over the course of this year. The final episode is going to be coming on the 19th of July here for The Dark Tower 7, The Dark Tower, but I am a King fanatic that when I basically realized that many of his books all interconnect, as you can see by all the ones beside me, including the hidden row below, I took it upon myself to start at the very beginning with Carrie, work through the man's entire bibliography. It has been an immense and arduous yet so fulfilling journey for me that is nearly over, because right after I get done with Dark Tower 7, I'm starting the Bill Hodges trilogy, and then I will be completely done. Also going to reread it before the film comes out in September, but hopefully I will have all of that done in time for Sleeping Beauties. And ironically enough, Sleeping Beauties is going to be released in a deluxe edition by the same company who I have this box from right here. That's right, Cemetery Dance Publications. You guys have heard me rave and rant and just give them all the glory that they deserve as my personal favorite publisher for not just specialty Stephen King stuff, but horror of all varieties. They have so much amazing talent on their roster, whether it's displayed in their magazine that they put out or all of the special edition releases. You see two of those right there, and that's because Cemetery Dance, after already doing From a Buick 8 and an incredible anniversary edition of it, along with various other just badass deluxe versions of King stuff and various others, as I mentioned, the third installment, and unfortunately the long delayed third installment of the Doubleday Years, has finally arrived in my hot little hands here, and this is the deluxe edition of The Shining, which very befittingly is coming out 40 years after the original release of the book. Now, funny thing is with The Shining, a lot of people, based on the Kubrick film, have strange misgivings about this, and I'm just gonna start this process and continue talking as I'm breaking it open. But they also put out a sequel that King wrote, and Cemetery did a deluxe edition of that as well for the book Dr. Sleep. And so I'm actually going to give just a little brief mini review of Dr. Sleep and my impressions of that Shining sequel after we take a look at this book. But the coolest thing about this, now I already had a different deluxe edition of The Shining, which is by another company who I'm not going to mention here because it's no longer on my shelf and I don't want to talk any smack. But when I was rereading The Shining for a special that I did far earlier this year, comparing the book to the film to the miniseries that Mick Garris eventually did in the 90s, I basically I reread that version of it with beautiful illustrations, slipcase, hardcover, the whole 9 yards. But when I found out that Cemetery Dance was going to be unearthing the entire prologue of The Shining, that's right, and the only time that we had seen even a snippet of it beforehand was in the TV Guide magazine in the 90s, when that aforementioned TV miniseries that King actually scripted himself because he was so dissatisfied with Kubrick's film. I think Kubrick's film has merits. I think it's visually beautiful, yet they did take some significant liberties with the tone of certain characters. There's a lot of iconic scenes in that film that aren't even in the book, which is crazy. But I can vouch for how awesome Dr. Sleep is, and how with Cemetery Dance doing a deluxe version of this, I'm very excited to take a peek at this fellow Stephen King fanatic. So let's get to it. I'm just gonna Alright, so obviously we've got some of these little foamy things. I know they're toxic. Thankfully I don't have any pets, so I'm just gonna kind of get right to this here. This sold out almost instantly. It was very, very tough to get a hold of. We got the bubble wrap. When I was a kid, I was the biggest fan of popping this shizzle, which is kind of funny. This is always like, especially as a King fan, or I'm sure any literary fan, I like tangible stuff. I do not have one of those e-book reader kind of things, Kindles or whatever. I'm not about that, man. I am about having physical things that you can actually display on your shelf, and I mean, obviously you can see I'm all about that. So got some shrink wrap on this. Yeah, I know this isn't like the most exciting video, so I don't know if I'll ever do another unboxing, but you guys are at least hanging with me for this one here. So, and I just realized I'm cutting off the top of my head. Definitely don't want that. I'm just so excited. It's like Christmas morning for a King fan like me. So, let's get this box out of the way. Huzzah! Yes, you get tossed to the side. Good, sir. So there we go. Stephen King CD. Let's hope it can focus properly so you guys can actually see it decently. I know it's tough with the lighting, but now we are gonna get a look at, you see, interesting first and foremost how it's white instead of these others which have a darker slipcase, but let's get this out so you guys can actually take a closer look at it. So, just gonna very gently set that, but we have beautiful, beautiful painted cover here, and it's actually a wrap around cover. Yeah, as you can see, forming one big image, which is pretty dope. Yes, that's right. That is beautifully done, I must admit. So let's just say what they have here in the foreword, if it's anything different. No, it doesn't look like it. The Overlook Hotel claimed the most beautiful physical setting of any resort in the world, but Jack Torrance, the new winter caretaker with his wife Wendy and their 5-year-old son Danny, saw much more than its splendor. Jack saw the Overlook as an opportunity, a desperate way back from failure and despair. Wendy saw this lonely sanctuary as a frail chance to preserve their family, and Danny? Question mark? Danny, who was blessed or cursed with a shining precognitive gift, saw visions hideously beyond the comprehension of a small boy. He sensed the evil coiled within the Overlook's 110 empty rooms, an evil that was waiting just for them. The Shining by Stephen King, the undisputed master of the modern horror story. So, as it says here, this is the 3rd volume in the Doubleday Years set from Cemetery Dance Publications. The next one that they're going to be doing is going to be Night Shift. Woohoo! So excited for that. But, once again, slipcase gift edition, limited to 3,000 copies. We've got some beautiful artwork there of those crazy hedge animals that come to life and wreak havoc. That is a sick cover. I love the coloring with the lettering. What do you think about that, Rob? Looks pretty dope, right? The theme continues once we get in here. See Stephen King's name. This is kind of ironic. This is for Joe Hill King, who shines on. My editor on this book, yeah, just the typical King stuff. But 1977, man, 40 years ago, this book actually came out. And as it's got these beautiful, almost, I guess you would call them watermarks, that same gold that we saw when I was first showing the coloration of the logo itself. Tremendously cool. And yeah, there you go. Prologue, right at the very beginning. And so Stephen King has a introduction from 2001 in here, so I'm curious where this intro had actually appeared before. So I look forward to reading that. That's gonna be super sick. And so this is called, yeah, Before the Play. I'm hoping it's actually auto-focusing. If it's not, yes. This says, Before the Play, the 3rd floor of a resort hotel. So I'm assuming this is the play where he got upset. Oh, no, this is actually something different. So as I just breeze through here really quick, it's a 40-page prologue, and that's 40 pages with like this huge, like almost like coffee table, you know, type presentation. And as I'm breezing through, I know this is definitely not the most exciting for you guys, but let's try to find some of this beautiful art that is throughout. Interesting. So they're going for kind of a photo realistic, if we can not get the glare to be so bad. Yeah, check out Danny there. Check out Danny there. Yeah, you guys probably can't hear me so well over that. That's definitely interesting. Not exactly the type of art that I was expecting, and not in a bad way. They're just going really hyper realistic. Yeah, and you've got obviously this very cool painting of the hotel itself. So there is illustrations throughout, which is very, very cool. But obviously the real selling point for this, as I continue looking, yeah, is that prologue. I mean, this is going to be fetching redonkulous money, I would imagine, and with good reason. Oh, there we go. There's another iconic scene where young Danny is peeking in on that woman who's dead in the bathtub, the old lady. So that's definitely pretty sweet. So, I mean, I must say, this is definitely going to be a wonderful, wonderful addition to my collection. And it's obviously, once again, the selling point here, friends and fellow King aficionados, is going to be that prologue, which I cannot wait to read. Oh, there we go. Looks like in the back we have, yeah, so just so you can take a peek at it, got the original hardcover cover. Yeah, that's cool. Which is actually, as I'm sure you guys know, sitting on my shelf right there. Decent condition too. I was happy that was a very good find. So yeah, guys, this is yeah, that's the unboxing of the now long out of print at this point deluxe edition of The Shining that Cemetery Dance put together. So I'm gonna very cautiously, carefully. That's the thing. This being a white box is going to show the dirt. Oh, so much worse, or the dust, I should say. So I'm gonna have to be frequently making sure to take a peek at the collection here. If I can, these slipcases are always fun. Let's get this back in there. Without messing anything up too badly. Jeez, definitely don't want that. There we go. Beautimous, beautimous. So once again, Cemetery Dance has put a beautiful and exciting book together, as they always, always do. I'm actually gonna move my Dark Tower concordance here, just so that I can make some room for this. You guys are gonna see a redesigned set now, because I don't know where the hell I'm gonna put this thing yet. But, so now let's get into, once again, you're gonna see more Cemetery Dance here. You guys have seen this book pop up quite a few times in various videos if you've watched any number of mine. And this is the sequel to The Shining that King put out in 2013, I believe. Yeah, 2013. And it's entitled Dr. Sleep. Yeah, very, very intriguing title for the sheer fact that going in for a sequel of The Shining, I didn't know what to expect. You know, King, a few years ago, well, a few years before this came out, obviously, too, he basically was talking to a bunch of fans and, you know, fellow literary, you know, savant, you know, fanatic, whatever you want to call them, and he said he had ideas for two different things. He had an idea for a Shining sequel, and he had an idea for another Dark Tower story that was like about younger, you know, Roland, and had him and, well, I think at the time they said Bert, but it was actually Jamie DeCurry that ended up being the character in that. So he was like, fans, I want you guys to vote and tell me which one you really want to see. And lo and behold, I believe that Dr. Sleep, the Shining sequel, actually won, but just barely by like just less than 100 votes. It was some like crazy, just practically 50-50, and yet he ended up writing the one through the keyhole first, which is Dark Tower 4.5, which you guys can see my review of here on the horror show as well. But probably because this is a much longer book in comparison, and it was a book that was so rich with just, I don't want to say despair, but introspection, especially. We all know that The Shining was a kind of analogy for King and the addictions that he was going through at the time, you know, most notably alcoholism. Jack Torrance, you know, in that book is, you know, he's a fledgling writer. Well, I mean, you just had me, you know, give the little synopsis there. So he is a writer, former school teacher. It was very autobiographical, and he's dealing with addiction, takes on the caretaking job. King actually took on a Colorado caretaking job, you know, at a property, and so that was how he actually got the inspiration for that story. But this basically picks up, you know, X amount of years later with Danny Torrance all grown up, and it's just really crazy how the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You know, the whole like father, like son motif that everybody is familiar with, and just, I guess it doesn't pick up there initially. You do have some stuff with Tim and Dick Halloran, and you actually get what happens with Wendy afterwards. You get also the information that some of the spirits from the Overlook followed Danny, including the aforementioned lady in the tub, and so, you know, they didn't all just stay there. And that's where reading this book would probably be pretty strange for somebody who has not read The Shining. They've only seen it, because they end drastically differently. In one, the entire hotel is destroyed, and yet in the Kubrick book, yeah, that's not the case. You know, the Jack becomes like a part of the hotel, and, you know, they escape, and, you know, Wendy and Danny, and in one Halloran gets killed, and another one he survives. It's just like there's a lot of confusion. And so if you were reading this, I would definitely recommend to read the Shining book first. Don't just go on what you know from I guess you could watch the miniseries and that would fill you in properly, because that's pretty faithful, even though visually it feels much more like a TV show than it does like a full-on movie. But Dr. Sleep is great, especially when you catch up with Danny when he's grown up, and the fact that he's struggling with so many of the same problems as his father, addictions to alcohol and other things. And there is one scene in particular that they continually coming back to where he's all kinds of plowed out, and him and this girl, they go and they get some blow, and they go back to her apartment, and he wakes up with this woman he barely remembers, actually going home with her. There's coke all over the place, and she's got this tiny little son, and when Danny is like getting up trying to skedaddle, before she can actually wake up, he sees the kid there, and he sees the stuff on the counter, and he's like, "Is it candy? And then he's like, "Is the coke candy?" And you're like, "No, kid, no." And yet Danny has obviously become a real slimish person. He's bouncing from like city to city, state to state, working weird odd jobs, getting fired here and there, and it's really just, it's inspiring how he tries to tackle these issues and how he rehabilitates himself and getting in the right situation, and basically becoming Dr. Sleep is working at kind of a home for the elderly terminally ill. And so the Dr. Sleep that he kind of is one that helps them just kind of get ready to go to sleep permanently, and how he uses those, I guess not so much telekinetic powers, if that's the proper terminology, but just that shining, the touch almost, I guess you would say if you're a Dark Tower fan, to ease them into the next dimension and the next state of their spirit's existence. And so it's really fascinating also because there is a child that he is a close enough proximity to that he actually has that mental kind of message sent to her, when lo and behold there is a very sly incognito group of, I guess you could say, psychic vampires, or for people with just those sort of powers. They basically go and they suck the life force out of these gifted people, and that's how they go in these like caravans, like a bunch of old people in their RVs and stuff, and that's how they stay out of scrutiny and how they can continue doing these horrible things that they're doing. There is one bad bitch of a leader. They're called the True Knot. And it's just interesting how Danny gets caught up with these people when they sense the power of this young girl, and they're like, okay, we gotta track her down, we gotta find her and suck the life force out of her. And ironically enough, like the younger they are, like it's almost like there's a ripening age. So when they're like probably between like 10 and about just turning into a teenager, like those are the key years where if they're powerful, they are the most powerful. And also another horrible thing that they introduce is the fact that these creatures can, besides regenerating themselves once they actually take down this mist that comes out of these gifted people's bodies, they also get more of a high and I guess a stronger, more potent bit of energy from them if they torture them before they kill them. So if there is just fear and agony, and you can't just kill them right away, because you get more of that, I guess, spiritual essence out of them if there is that just terror that they are encountering before you actually take that energy out and put it in these weird little canisters that they carry around. So it's a damn good book. It is far beyond what I was expecting. I highly recommend Dr. Sleep, but definitely read Dr. Sleep after you either watch the TV miniseries, or more importantly, the thing that I would recommend more so because I want you to read Stephen King, is to read the third novel of his beforehand. The Shining is fantastic. I'm so excited about this joining my collection, and I urge all of you to track down Dr. Sleep. This will probably not be an option for tracking down, unfortunately, but and same with this, unless you want to pay some outrageous prices on eBay. However, I recommend both The Shining and Dr. Sleep, and I guess more importantly, beyond Stephen King that is, I recommend Cemetery Dance. They do so much amazing stuff for huge horror authors like King, but they also give smaller, newer creatives the opportunity to present their stories, whether in their short collections that they put out like Shivers, or their magazine, which comes out a few times a year as well. So I could extend the grande gracias obviously to Richard Chismar, the man behind Cemetery Dance. Definitely Stephen King, the man who actually writes these things and, created such amazing stuff that they can beef up and put these beautiful deluxe editions out of. I've been Jaime and Fuego. You can find me on all social media sectors at Jaime and Fuego, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I'm relaunching my YouTube at some point this summer. It's just been very busy with Dark Tower, with the convention season when we were doing that up until about a month ago, and I've been kind of biding my time and plotting my next move, debating how much is going to be podcast based, how much is going to be video based. We've had some strike issues with copyrights and stuff on the horror show, and for my own personal channel, it's really made me kind of rethink how I want to approach content preparation for this relaunch. So I look forward to you joining me once again for more episodes of Hail to Stephen King. Be sure to check out my 40th anniversary video about The Shining that's already up on the channel, as well as all of you people who are into the Wheel of Con, how circular it is. Check out all of my Dark Tower reviews. So until next time, Sin Amigos, hasta luego. I hope that it is sooner rather than later, and until that time arrives in the circle of Ka, its wheel comes back around once more, as I mentioned before. Stay scared and read Stephen King, because this is like the biggest year ever for him.